Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bucs Bounty. We are right around the new year. Crazy things happening in baseball, crazy things happening in football. Goodness gracious. Alex Presley joins me over here. Man, Alex, obviously great to have you. Before we do anything else, I want to talk about, because you're wearing the Steelers hat, I want to talk about the end of
I
that
am.
game. That was absolutely insane. Super fun to watch. With all the playoff implications and everything going on, high pressure, Mike Tomlin trying to continue his streak of winning seasons, all that stuff on the line. Really cool. And then the game ends with a missed field goal that it kind of feels like the Steelers didn't deserve to win it, but they had that great drive at the end. So they did. I don't know, man. Wild game. What did you think about it?
I mean, we're in playoff mode at this house right now, so we're excited. But just the back and forth of that fourth quarter, I almost had a heart attack watching it. One of the kickers was going to be the GOAT at the end, no matter what, because you have Boswell who
Yeah.
missed the extra point, who hasn't missed an extra point in like 2.5 years or something. Somehow
Mm-hmm.
misses one. I don't even watch his extra points anymore. I just assume they're going through. And
Yeah.
then you had to feel a little bit bad for the Ravens kicker, but at the same time, I mean,
It's the
better,
Ravens.
better, better him
So,
than us, right?
right. Exactly. Crazy ending. Fun to watch. The Steelers are now in the playoffs. So it'll be fun to watch this coming week. Who are they playing? I actually don't know. I haven't looked at the brackets yet. You know?
Houston at home. So
Houston. Oh, I'm sure
anything can
that's going to be an
happen.
easy task.
I don't know.
It's a
They're a
good
tough
team.
squad. We'll see.
Houston's a
See
good
what
team.
happens. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're good.
All right, let's talk about baseball. Thank you guys for joining us here on Bucs Bounty. Please like, follow, subscribe, watch us on SportsNet Pittsburgh on YouTube, all that good stuff. We are very happy to have you here with us. Pirates unfortunately get some bad news in the free agent market over this last week as Kazuma Okamoto signs with the Blue Jays. They gave him 4 years, $60 million, a great deal for him. Not as many huge deals from the Japanese market as we saw, for example, last year or the year before. But Okamoto stands to be a pretty good player in major leagues. So it's unfortunate to see him go, especially because the Pirates were widely considered the favorite to land him before he landed that deal with Toronto. I haven't heard anything about what offers were made from the Pirates to Okamoto or what they might have been. So I just kind of want to stay away from that and let's move on, right? He's gone. He's off the table. We don't need to worry about it. That's life. So now we go to, where do the Pirates go from here? You got a few choices that we brought up last week. And we're going to kind of go over this again because we want to kind of frame this conversation a little bit differently, Presley. Let's
Mm-hmm.
start with Eugenio Suarez. Suarez is an interesting candidate because he hits a bunch of home runs. Defensively, not going to be near what you had in Key Brian Hayes or even Jared Triolo over the last few years, but he hits a ton of homers. So you kind of really like that. In the middle of this offense definitely needs that. 49 home runs between Seattle and Arizona last year. Presley, what do you got on Suarez?
I like him. Like you said, he's going to be a boom or bust type guy. You're going to have, of course, the home runs, but baked into that cake is going to be a bunch of strikeouts and just stuff. You're going to have to deal with little runs of that and be fine with it. But I mean, there's only four guys in Major League Baseball that hit more home runs last year than Eugenio Suarez, and it was Cal Raleigh, Schwarber, uh, Judge. I'm missing one. Otani. Oh, how could I forget Otani?
Otani.
So I
Yeah,
mean,
that guy.
he was. Yeah. I mean, no big deal. I was thinking about his pitching. I think. But yeah,
Right.
he is top five in home runs last year and in RBIs as well. So I mean, you can't discount that. He's a guy that hits a bunch of fly balls to the pole side, as we know. PNC Park is a little deeper in that left field straight away, but huge power. A guy that the Pirates are going to need, that type of guy in the lineup to be kind of a linchpin in the middle, something to strike fear into the hearts of pitchers, along with a couple of the guys they've added so far. So he would be a big get. The Pirates are a team that so far that haven't struck out anyway. So I'd rather be hitting home runs if we're going to be striking out at the same time. So that's kind of what I got on him. I think he'd be a huge pickup. Looking at what, about 20 mil a year for him, probably 3 years, 34-year-old guy. So definitely aging, getting in that point where you might get some diminished returns, especially at the end of that deal. But he's by far, you would have to be excited if the Pirates could pull this off.
Jason Mackey kind of popped off in the viral sphere over the last day or so because he brought up the fact that signing Suarez would mean having to probably give him 4 years. You probably have to give him 4 years because you'd have to outshoot what other
Yep.
teams are going to be offering him. It kind of got taken as that Pirates are doing that. That is not the case. We don't know that. That's just kind of more of him saying that's what the Pirates would need to do. And like you said, 34 years old, if you're going to go a 4-year contract paying him $20 million a year, I mean, at the end of that contract, you just hope he's still hitting home runs because power doesn't always go by the wayside too bad. It's more of consistency of the power or being able to get the bat speed to not strike out too often, that sort of thing. Yeah, it seems like it'd be a tough deal for the Pirates, put them in a tough spot in the few coming years, but they do have the payroll flexibility, I think, to be able to do that. It's still an open book for me on Suarez. I do like the power. I do like the idea of, like, in my head, if I just go, there's a righty on the mound and you got Cruz, Lau, Reynolds, and Suarez. That's pretty terrifying top four in a lineup
Yeah.
for a pitcher to have to face. So, I mean, I really like it. I hated facing Eugenio Suarez, especially in Cincinnati, because that place was tiny.
Oh,
But he's a good hitter. It'll be interesting to see if the Pirates go that direction. But that will be a huge, huge contract, something that they have not done really anywhere even close in order to sign him in a free agent capacity. So let's pump the brakes a little bit and move on to a more realistic choice in Yoan Moncada. I talked with Michael McHenry about this on the podcast just recently, and he really thinks that Moncada is the right choice for a lot of reasons, and I can see why. He's got good stuff when it all works. He has not played very many games over the last 4 years, but last year, 12 home runs. He had a 783 OPS, and he had 32 walks and 75 strikeouts. Definitely numbers that you'll take out of a switch hitter who you hope over a full season might be able to deliver somewhere in the 20 home run range. Would you say that's about right?
yeah, and like you said, I think him being on the field is the biggest obstacle at this point. He's played, I think, 96 games in the past 2 seasons combined. So, uh, there's always that risk that you get him and depend on him, and he's just not out there. I know he was dealing with knee inflammation last season, which hinders just about everything. I mean, the hitting, the
Yeah.
defense. I know his defense was down quite a bit, but if he's out there grinding, just trying to be on the field, that could be a big factor there. But like you said, 12 home runs, a switch hitter. I'm always in on switch hitters all the time. That means they can play against anybody for the most part. When he's healthy, he's pretty good. He's got that power. All 12 of his home runs were left-handed. So more of the power is coming from that left-handed side. We don't know if the knee, how that could have affected his right-handed swing or
Yeah.
whatever, but um, a guy that can be pretty dynamic when he's healthy. And like I said, he'll be a lot easier a lot more friendly on the payroll side of things where you can maybe have that flexibility to do some other things in some other areas that you might have wanted to do coming into the offseason.
And once you get past those two, now at this point, when it comes to free agents, I mean, our producer Nick Belsky is a wonderful man who put Alex Bregman on here. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's probably going to go
I knew that
sign a
was
big
coming.
contract somewhere else. He's, but realistically, right now, when you're looking at the free agents that are available, nobody else is going to be much of an offensive upgrade from what you have in Jared Triolo. Or Nick Gonzalez or Nick York, whichever route you want to go. So if you're not getting one of these two guys, or my possible third, which is very unlikely that I'm about to mention, I don't see you making any changes. My possible third is a trade for Alec Bohm. However, Pirates have made some big trades. They've traded away their young pitching that I assume that they're willing to trade away. I don't think they want to do much more than that. I don't know exactly what the Phillies would be wanting. And besides, at this point, the Phillies have come out and basically stood behind Alec Bohm and said, he's our guy. He's a guy that I would have really liked personally because he hits a lot of doubles, like a ton of doubles. And the Pirates were last in extra base hits last year, not just in home runs. They need extra base hits. So I think that would have been a good fit there. But with the trades that they did make in order to get some young talent and to get the power of Brandon Lau, I'm totally fine with that. So if you don't get Bohm, that's fine. But once you get past Suarez and Moncada, I think you get to the point now where you are choosing between who's going to play there from inside the house. Let's go over those guys really quick. Jared Triolo, Nick Gonzalez, and Nick York. Triolo's the only guy that has any real experience at third base. It's played it a decent amount. Nick Gonzalez only played 10 innings there in 24, and Nick York over the last 2 years has played 11 innings there. Any of those guys, would you be really interested in seeing them getting a large bulk of innings at third base?
I mean, definitely the one that sticks out is Triolo. We saw him last year really come on towards the end of the year with his bat is something we've been waiting for after a really tough stretch. He finally got to play consistently, which is a lot of times the key to being good at the plate. But we know about the defense. It's not far off from Key Bryant at third base. He's really comfortable over there. But I think the big thing with Triolo is that for this, I feel like for this team to get to their top potential, they're going to need to get somebody else, and he's going to have to be the guy that moves around and do what he does best at different positions. So, but if there was a guy out of that group, I got to go with Triolo, obviously with the experience factor. Nick Gonzalez, as we know, has a lot of good amount of at bats the past couple of years, although he battled a little injury in the beginning of the year, but not a whole lot of experience at third. Maybe he can do some things on like a replacement level on some days off and stuff, but and Nick York, it just remains to be seen. We haven't seen him get the at-bats or have the opportunity to get the at-bats at the major league level to really step in and say that he's going to be the guy. So it kind of puts Triolo in a more stable position, which honestly, I'd like to see him be able to move around and use his defensive versatility and kind of spell guys on certain days and just find ways for him to be in the lineup just at different positions. But he would have to be the guy.
You know, the first time we saw Triolo stick at a position, right, was at the beginning of 2024 when he was named the starting second baseman going into the season, and it didn't work, right? I don't know if that had any, who knows why that was, all the factors that go into a human being, but it seems like he does excel when he's hopping around a little bit more. It's like maybe it takes a little bit of the pressure out of his mind of, having to make sure I play this position better than anybody else, or, oh, I have to hit here because now I'm the starting everyday second baseman. Instead of you could
Right.
be the starting everyday whatever and just be in the lineup wherever. And that seemed to really work out for him. But last year at the end of the season, he had a really good top the last few months, and that was basically all shortstop and third base. That was basically all he was playing. So that left side of the infield, I see being a really good place for him. However, the last question here is, will this all change if Konnor Griffin ends up making his debut? Yes. If he breaks through at the end of spring training and he is on the team to start the season, this conversation is moot because Triolo is just going to move over to third base. It's that simple. And then from there, you figure out as the season goes on, if you need to go get a power bat at third base, and you're in the mix, then you could go do that. But I think Konnor Griffin is a huge part of this decision and what it means for the Pirates, not only for this season, but in the coming few seasons. Would you agree?
Yeah, and how is that going to affect the Pirates' decision making on Connor Griffin if they get a free agent to play third base? Are they going to try
True.
to maybe push him a little bit sooner? I mean, he looked ready last year, but who knows coming into spring how that's going to be? I mean, he's got so many tools. It's he could affect the game in so many ways. But will the Pirates feel compelled to bring him up sooner if they do not sign a Suarez or a Moncada or make another trade? So, like you said, a lot of things are revolving around Connor, but got to think from the. I try to think like a GM. Usually, when I do, I'm not really right on par. Especially when I played, I
Right.
could never predict what they were going to do, but a little better at it now. But yeah, I kind of go into the GM's shoes there, and try to see how that would make me feel. Trying to get more offense and some more excitement up there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it comes down to when you simplify everything as a GM, it comes down to you want the best 26 players that you have in your organization on the roster at any given point. If Konnor Griffin comes into spring training and does what he did last year against big league pitching in spring training, I just don't see how you leave him off the roster myself, because if you're pushing to make the team or make the playoffs this year, it seems to me right now that Konnor Griffin gives you the best chance of that. So that's, who knows? We'll see what happens. I just am a big fan of Konnor Griffin in the same way that I was such a big fan of Paul Skenes before he came up. There are some guys that separate themselves to the point where it's obvious that they are going to be very good in the major leagues. Konnor Griffin made the adjustments he needed to make to get to the point where when he gets out to the big leagues, I truly believe he's going to be successful immediately, because even if the average isn't there, the power will be there. The stolen base will be there. The great defense will be there. All of that, I think, just plays up so well. I am curious to see what's going to happen with Konnor Griffin. But you know what? Whatever. We'll just wait and we'll see, and hopefully we'll get to see Konnor Griffin ASAP in Pittsburgh in 2026.
No one destroys a baseball like Oneil Cruz.
That is the hardest hit ball in known Major League history.
Pitchers should consider themselves warned.
And it is gone! There's a Cruz missile!
Log in with your cable provider and stream the Pirates all season long on SNP 360.
All right, let's make a little transition here. All right, from one hole to a filled hole that has some problems. We have a strange catcher situation in Pittsburgh because there is really not many better defensive catchers than Henry Davis, and which is crazy to say because 2 years ago that never would have even been in the conversation. But now we're talking about how Henry Davis, does he have the bat to make it worth all the great defense and the great pitch calling and game management, all the stuff we've heard from the team and the front office about what Henry Davis brings? That's great, but you need some offense out of that position as well if you can get it. We look at the numbers from last year: 167 batting average, only a 512 OPS. He hit 7 homers. He had a high K rate. He had a low walk rate. None of those things were good. What does Henry Davis need to do, Press, in order to get himself not even to his full potential, but to start those building blocks to get himself eventually up to that full potential?
Now, look, this is going to sound like a complete cop out. I'm not going to get into mechanics or anything. He just needs to focus on having more consistent at bats, whether that's clearing his brain from. I think he's a guy who's very analytical as a catcher. He's notorious for being very prepared and into trends and things of that nature and exploiting those. I think when he gets to the plate, I think he needs to turn his brain off just a little bit more. Just focus on, have a very simple approach and know that he doesn't have to carry this team offensively. Go up there, do your job, get a good pitch to hit, put a good swing on it. I think some of the best times we saw him at the plate was when he came in unexpectedly. I think Bart came out. I think this may have been in Arizona last year, and he came in and had 2 or 3 hits, just swinging, first pitch strikes.
Yeah.
I think he hit 3 different types of pitches, just seeing the ball and hitting the ball. I think anything that can take the pressure off of him at the plate is a good thing. And a lot of times as a hitter, that's just kind of just turning a portion of your brain off and just thinking about what you're trying to do, seeing the ball and just letting the chips fall and not worry about results.
So I'm curious, you were not a big guy. You didn't have a ton of power. Henry Davis does. So for a guy like him, would he be able to kind of minimize everything movement wise, position wise, and just throw the barrel at the ball and still be effective? Or is that something that, we always talk about that? Yeah, just shorten up, put the barrel on the ball. Obviously it's not that easy, but is that something that maybe could benefit a guy like Henry Davis to just kind of make everything as simple as possible and then move from there?
Yeah, I mean, in some degree, yes. I mean, you don't want him to completely change what he's good at the plate or his swing, but we want more balls off the barrel from Henry Davis, and a good way to do that also is the adjustment. Like I said, a lot of times mental adjustments affect you physically and how you attack the ball at the plate. So if I'm thinking, I want to see this ball longer, I want to try to go up the middle, my swing will change from having that
Right.
thought process. I will be a little more cognizant of maybe where my hands are. Like, where I'm starting my swing and in relation to the ball coming in or whatever, just seeing the ball out over the plate. It could be that simple. But I think, outside of, small physical things that can be done, the mental part of it is huge. And I think just simplifying everything at the plate would be the best route for Henry right now, because he's doing a heck of a job behind the plate. I mean, it's like you said, it's not something that we expected. And coming out of college, out of Louisville, his scouting report was completely different than where he's at now, which is kind of crazy to think about. But so we know there's some hitability in there. Just got to find a way to pull it out. And sometimes less is more.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point. Okay.
I mean,
Now, one more question on you. This is for my hitter guy here, because pitcher, it's a different life we lead. I'm curious. Okay, as a hitter, we know what Henry Davis's weaknesses were this year. Okay, he chased fastballs up really, really bad. He did it a lot, and he swung and missed at it a lot. And then anything really far in, it seemed like it's like he thought he had to swing at pitches that were executed in on the inside corner. As a pitcher, I'll tell you, I knew that whenever I executed a pitch actually on the inside corner, righty or lefty, I was in a pretty safe spot, because it's really hard to actually do anything with that pitch that actually gets that inside corner. Henry's on the play a little bit. He starts open and then closes. And so all of that ends up being, I think, really difficult for him to hit that very inside pitch. So my question is, as a hitting coach, would you tell a player like that to work on hitting those pitches, or would you tell him to work on avoiding swinging at those pitches?
I would work on avoiding swinging, purely because a lot of hitters, the old saying is, the ball in is the one that they're looking for. A lot of times hitters like the ball out over the plate, where they can extend their arms. You can pull balls out over the plate and keep them fair, usually more often than balls in. A lot of times you get tied up on those balls inside, especially. I remember I faced you. We've tried to find the video. We can't find it. I scrubbed it from all existence.
Yeah, it's gone.
During the year, we looked for it. And I specifically remember you throwing me in as a lefty on lefty, and I couldn't stand it. I hated it. It's very enticing to swing at. So a good way to try to eliminate that is to keep your sights set out over the plate. And that way the ball that's in or borderline will look like it's way into you, and you'll have a less chance of offering at it. I just think if it's a pitch that you can't really get to or you can't hit, you want to try to avoid it completely and kind of play a little more to your strengths on some pitches that you can maybe handle out over the middle.
That's something that I also would like to just kind of bring to a broader scope here. If you are coaching your kids and you're trying to work on things that they are not good at, that is very important. You want to make sure you always round out your kids' game. However, you do not want to take away from working on the things that they are really good at. You need to have something that separates you, something that makes you special. You need to make sure you continue to work on that thing so it continues to get better as you also round out the rest of your game. Okay, so behind Henry Davis, Joey Bart, rough first half. He was really good in the second half in 25 last season. Obviously, in 2024, we saw him kind of take off. Henry Davis took over that starting position by the end of last year. Then Rafael Flores, who we got from the David Bednar trade at the trade deadline. We got to see a little glimpse of him up in the major leagues. He looks comfortable at the plate. This is what Michael and I always talk about. Looks very hitterish. But we still haven't seen very much from him. But his whole thing is offense. You're not going to be getting the same defense you would get with Henry Davis, but maybe an offensive replacement if you needed it. And then Endy Rodriguez, who just, he's just been crushed with injuries. So we haven't really gotten to see him at his full potential yet. I guess my question here is kind of, what do you see happening behind Henry Davis as the season starts? And then maybe as the season progresses, do you see anything changing?
I don't really see anything changing. I maybe Henry will get a little bit more playing time than he did last year. We know he catches Paul Skenes every time Paul pitches, so there's 1 out of 5 every time, and maybe he'll be in the mix a little bit more. It seemed to be at the end of last year that was the case, but we saw a little bit more from Joey Bart of what we kind of expected coming into last year. We saw it at the end of last year where he really came on strong. The year before, he had 13 home runs, almost an 800 OPS, and expectations were high for him. Had a rough start. Sometimes things don't. It's hard to carry good seasons over to more good seasons. That's that's what being consistent is, and it's really difficult to do at the major league level. And he seemed to get kind of back on track there towards the end of the year. And if he can carry that momentum over into this coming season, then you got kind of an offensive guy and you got a defensive guy, and you can work with that. But we're going to need Joey Bart to swing the bat. He's going to have to put together a little more production offensively, more like he did at the latter part of last season.
Well, we haven't seen an Andrew McCutchen signing as of yet. If Kutch gets signed back, that takes up the DH role, right? I mean, that's what it does. If Kutch does not get signed back, you add some flexibility to get Joey Bart and Henry Davis in games at the same time, especially because I think that they're going to carry either Endy or Flores as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see them carry 3 catchers, so that just specifically, I mean, think about that. Against lefties, you're not going to be able to have, like, Cruz is not going to do as well. He might not even play. Lau, his splits aren't too bad. O'Hearn, his splits aren't very bad against lefties. So those guys probably stay in the lineup, but it'd be really nice to be able to have Joey Bart and Henry Davis in the lineup, both guys who hit lefties better than righties. So like that, I can see that being one of the reasons why you'd want to keep it that way. However, Andrew McCutchen crushes lefties. So, it kind of brings that into question. We'll see if that happens by the time that the season rolls around. But interesting catching stuff going on for the Pirates. Either way, I can't wait. I want to see Henry Davis really break out this year. I think that would be so cool, and would mean so much for this offense.
He got him, and he's done it again.
Welcome to Unobstructed Views.
We're at BP. We're going to get an inside look.
Once you start loving each other, you start fighting for each other.
Welcome to Coach's Corner. And he'll admire it, so will we.
Is that too much to ask for?
Oh, baby.
Okay, let's play a game. Let's play a game here on Bucs Bounty. Today, Alex Presley and I are going to get very heated because we don't like each other. We just pretend we do on TV. Okay, so we got some questions here. 4 questions. We're going to go what's more likely. Press, I'm going to ask you, and then we're going to see where we end up on this. So let's start here. Oneil Cruz, is it more likely that he hits 30 home runs for the first time in his career? Or is it more likely that he steals 50 bases for the first time in his career?
Well, I'm going to go with the 50 stolen bases. He had 38 last year, only 4 between August and September. I know he had a injury stint there in the middle of the year. So he was on pace, well on pace for 50 for a while. Speed does not slump, although you cannot steal first. So I would like to see Oneil get on base a little bit more than he did last year. That's going to be the key to those stolen bases. But I'm going 50 bags. I feel like if he just gets on and goes and doesn't lose, sometimes he tends to lose some aggressiveness throughout the season, or the way things are going, he'll be a little less aggressive. I like to see that aggressiveness just kind of stay at a standard the whole year, and I think he should be able to get to 50. What do you think? I feel like you're going to go the opposite on this one.
I am. And I think 30 home runs for Oneil Cruz is almost like a baseline, to be honest with you. Like a full season of healthy, strong Oneil Cruz. I think 30 home runs should be genuinely a baseline for him. And I think that this season maybe we'll finally see that happen. Few things. One, last year was the first time that he played center field the entire season, which is very much more physically taxing than playing shortstop. It just is, on your legs, on your arm at times, just because you don't throw for a long time and then you throw the ball as hard as you can, as far as you can. It's a very strange kind of position when it comes to arm health. But I think Oneil Cruz this season, what I'm hoping to see is that confidence that he had at the beginning of last year, at the end of 2024, he's going to be able to continue with throughout a whole season. Every year we see him get to the point where he gets in this little funk and he starts trying to be so precise. He starts trying to be what I call a good hitter. And I hate saying that. He's just not that guy. I want to see Oneil Cruz always, every time he comes up, he should just be a dominant power threat in the box. I think maybe that mental change happens more consistently this year, and we get to see him hit a ton of homers. So I'm going to go home runs. All right, number
It's
2.
frustrating because he has
Oh,
so
yeah.
much room for error. He has more room for error than just about anybody
know.
in Major League Baseball. So let's just get out there and just let it go. And hey, we should be able to get both, right? If he is up to his potential, maybe get both.
Who needs or when you can have both?
Yeah,
¿Por qué no los
exactly.
dos, as I would say to Mr. Cruz. All right, Bubba Chandler wins NL Rookie of the Year, or Konnor Griffin wins NL Rookie of the Year. This one, you cannot have both, so you must choose.
Okay. So there's one caveat to this whole thing is that we don't know whether Konnor Griffin's going to start in the big leagues or not, right? But
Right.
there's a guy named Nick Kurtz that also did not start in the big leagues last year and won Rookie of the Year. I'm going to go with Konnor Griffin on this one. Position player to position player. I got to go with him. He's just so dynamic. You spoke about it earlier. If something's not working, he has something else that works. So he's almost never in a position where he's not going to be doing something productive on the field. And I think if you put him at the top of this lineup and the way he can get on base and the way he can steal bases, I've seen it firsthand, the aggressiveness. He is not afraid to go. First game in AA, I was there. One of the first pitches when he was on first base, he took off. There was no hesitation. Supremely confident. The stage will not be too big for him. And as long as he gets his at-bats and his opportunities, especially with this improved lineup, he's going to be scoring a ton of runs and could really impact this team and put this team over the top, toward this playoff run that we're all expecting this coming year. So lot to contain. You can't guard everything. You got to pick and choose what you're going to guard, and he's got too much.
Okay, so I'm going to go Bubba, and here you go. You ready for this? Bubba Chandler is still pretty new at this whole being a pitcher only thing. Remember, he was a two-way guy. And when he first got drafted, stopped playing shortstop, ended up being a pitcher only. Things have really taken off. Okay, you know who else hasn't been a pitcher only for very long? That is similar kind of stuff would be Paul Skenes. Paul Skenes is a perfect example for what Bubba Chandler can be. Right? It happened really, really quickly for Paul Skenes. It does not happen that quickly for almost anybody else. I think that after a season of being in the big leagues, getting good time in the big leagues, going into an offseason where he's going to get to work with Paul Skenes the entire offseason, and those two are going to be able to get together, he's going to learn so much. He is a very smart, a very intense. He wants to win. He wants to learn. He wants to get better. I think we're going to see Bubba Chandler just absolutely explode onto the scene this year and be that real number 2 that will allow Mitch to be a really good number 3, right? I think that is the perfect situation, is that if you can get Skenes and Chandler as those no doubt 1-2, and then all of a sudden maybe Ashcraft is even your number 3 with Mitch as 4, right? Things get really interesting if Bubba Chandler gets to his potential. I think he's in literally the perfect situation to do it. Seems like new pitching coach Bill Murphy and the assistant pitching coach Thomas Whitsett that have both joined the Pirates organization, seems like they are on the same page of they're not coming in to change things. The only word that I've seen those two guys use often is help. I just want to help. I'm not trying to tell you what you need to do. I'm not trying to tell you what you're doing is wrong. I know what's right. I'm coming in here to help. And I think that that's going to be really big, because I think Paul Skenes is the real 100% pitching coach of this team. And I don't mean that in a way that it's taking away from what Bill Murphy does. It's just that you have this great resource of knowledge and ability that I think can really help these other pitchers. And Bubba Chandler's story is so similar to Paul Skenes. Right. I can just really see it working out really well. So I'm going to go Bubba Chandler winning NL Rookie of the Year. Wouldn't be so bad to see another Pirate win Rookie of the Year, 2 out of the 3 years since Paul Skenes come up. That'd be pretty nice. Speaking of the man himself, Paul Skenes, does he finish with a sub-2 ERA for the 3rd straight season, by the way? Or is he the first Pirate since 1991 to win 20 games in a single season?
You can start us. You go ahead. I'll follow up.
Okay.
on this one here.
I will happily start this one because I'm just gonna be completely honest. Wins are really hard to get, man. 2 ERA seems so doable for Paul Skenes. I genuinely don't see that. It's not like that's a crazy number for him. That's where I think it really blows my mind is when you think of Paul Skenes' season last year, winning the Cy Young. Guys like us who watched every single one of his starts, we don't remember the massive amount of 6, 7 innings, 0 or 1 run games that he throws. We don't remember those. What we remember are the games in Arizona where he gave up 4 runs. And you're like, oh, man, something's off. He's not quite Skenes anymore. Man, maybe it's going to finally catch up to him. Dude, it never catches up. He's got too many weapons. He goes too deep in games. His fastball is too good. Everything about Paul Skenes as a pitcher is it's unbelievable. And I genuinely don't think that that him having a 2 ERA or under a 2 ERA is even really a crazy thing to think. I think it's what his standard will be. It's about, there's going to be seasons where it goes up. Maybe there'll be seasons where it goes down. You just don't know. He's just got that good of stuff. So I'm going to go sub 2 ERA for the 3rd season in a row, which by the way, it's just, the amount of time he's played in the big leagues. So, that's what I'm
no big deal.
with.
The standard is the standard, as I have the Steelers hat on, right?
Yes,
so
there you go.
So this is another can we have both scenario. I'm going to go with the 20 wins. I think they kind of both go hand in hand. I think you can get 20 wins and be above a 2. That's possible. We've seen it.
That's true.
And the reasoning is going to be because this offense is getting revamped for Paul Skenes. And I saw a graphic at some point in the past few months that if this team could be league average in scoring runs, that Paul Skenes would be 41-3 in his career. So maybe this third base signing a lot could hinge on this third base signing, not just Konnor Griffin, but me being correct on the 20 wins. And a lot was made about Paul last year not getting the wins, not getting the run support. I think that's going to change this year, definitely by what we've seen in the offseason. But maybe he gets a little bit longer of a leash as well earlier in the year to go an extra inning that might grant him the qualifying win, or if we can score a run for him and take a lead and he's still in the game or whatever. But 20 wins is a tall task, but I would never bet against Paul Skenes in any scenario that he's holding a baseball, standing on a pitcher's mound. So I'm going 20 wins, and if he goes sub 2 and 20 wins, it could be one of the best seasons we've ever seen, which is kind of what we expect from Paul. So there you go.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that would be my big point as far as him getting the 20 wins is because I think the leash is off completely. That's my guess. I think that he's going to go into this season, and it's basically the question is not going to be, hey, are you going 5 today? The question is going to be, hey, Paul, let us know when you're done. I genuinely believe that's going to be kind of the feeling behind this. If he's not doing well, then obviously that's different. But if he's good, I think they're just going to be like, hey, man, tell us when you're done. It's obviously not that simple like because he would probably try to go. Yeah, but that's what I see.
Yep, agreed.
All right, last one. One more question. You ready for this? Okay.
I'm ready.
Do we have the Pirates finish with 5 players over 15 home runs? They had 2 last year, Cruz and Reynolds. Or do they have 5 pitchers with over 100 strikeouts? They had 2 of those last year in Skenes and Keller. And also Mike Burrows had 97, not quite 100, but he got traded away, so he don't count anymore. What do you got? 5 players with 15 homers or 5 players with 100 Ks?
I'm going 5 players with 15 homers, and I can go right down the list for you if you'd like. So
yes,
we had Cruz last year with 20. As you said earlier, his baseline is 30. So 15.
Yep.
If he gets less than 15 home runs, it's an absolute catastrophe. Brian Reynolds had 16 last year. He's a 20 home run guy. A little bit of a down year for Brian. I'm expecting him to bounce back, especially with some protection in the order. Lau, 31. I'm expecting him to go over 15. That's 3 guys. O'Hearn, 17. But never been a 20 home run guy. So he's going to be somewhere in that 15 to 20 range. Hopefully he pops a couple more. He's definitely capable. Now the fifth guy is where we start having some conversations. I'm looking at a guy like Spencer Horwitz, who had 11. He had 12 the previous year. Didn't have quite a full season of at-bats this year. As you know, he was hurt to start the year. He can pop 4 in that span of time if he gets the at-bats to get to 15. Or if we sign someone like a Eugenio Suarez, I mean, 15 might as well just be in the – like I said, anything less than 30 from Suarez, and I'm having a panic attack. Things didn't go as planned. So I think we're set up pretty decent. Whether we get the third baseman with power or not, I think we have a chance at 5 guys with 15. Need to have some guys that kind of just do what they've done over the course of their career, and we should be fine.
Okay, so I'm going to be honest with you. I want to disagree with you. I really do. However, the truth is, it's not easy to get 5 pitchers to 100 strikeouts. Relievers, you just don't throw enough to get 100 strikeouts. It's very rare for a reliever to hit the century mark, right? And
Let
then
me interject real
now
quick.
you have.
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
I saw my first year in 2010. I saw Evan Meek get to 100 strikeouts as a relief pitcher in September of 2010. It was pretty incredible. So, and I don't know that I've really seen it. Not anybody on my team since. So just to kind of back you up on that, how difficult it is. It was a big deal. It was a huge deal when he got to 100.
I once in my life got 100 strikeouts in a season, and I actually got literally exactly 100 because I was 90 going into my last start of the season against Cincinnati, and I got 10 strikeouts. The only time I ever got 10 strikeouts in a game, got up to 100. Wow. The funny thing was I only went 5 1/3 and gave up 5 runs that day. It wasn't even a great day, but I did get 10
great
punches.
Day and a bad day at the same time. Like, I'm punching everybody out, but everything else is getting hit. Like, what's going on right now? How can
exactly.
we have both?
It is Cincinnati, so that's just how it feels like all the time. But look, the truth is, if you could count guys for, like, I think Skenes is going to go to over 200 strikeouts. So does that count for 2? I think Keller can get right around 200 strikeouts. So if he does that, does that count for 2? The truth is, I genuinely believe that that Skenes, Chandler, Keller, and Ashcraft will all get 100 strikeouts. I think he got 4. And that's the crazy part. Yep. I think he basically got guaranteed 4. The problem is that 5th. I think the 5th starter, whoever they go get, if they go get somebody that ends up being in the rotation for the whole season, such as, like a left-hander, like we saw Quintana or Andrew Heaney or Martin Perez, those kinds of guys, generally don't get a ton of strikeouts. But if they're going to throw 160 innings because they're there the whole season, then I do think it's possible. I don't see any of the other 4 starting pitchers, if they stay healthy, getting under 100 strikeouts. You know what I mean? I just don't.
Yeah,
I don't see how that's possible. So the question just becomes, where's the 5th one come in? Dennis Santana is going to throw a lot of innings this year, but he doesn't strike out a ton of people. He's not a big strikeout guy, so it's going to be tougher for him to get to that 100 mark. Now, let's just say hypothetically, our next segment bleeds into this one, producer Nick Belsky. And there is one guy that I could see possibly doing this. And his name is Brandon Bidois. We're going to just scoot on over to Bucs on Deck here as we go through this, because we're going to talk about some young players. And Brandon Bidois is the most interesting guy that most people have never heard of in the Pirates minor league system, because the truth is he's a reliever, and we just don't talk much about relievers in the minor leagues. It's not necessarily a premium position. But Brandon Bidois last year, a .74 ERA, 69 strikeouts in 61 innings. I mean, he's just been, that was from low A to triple A, right? He went all the way up the system. He looked fantastic the entire time. He won the Kent Colby Reliever of the Year award for the Pirates. He added a changeup. He added a changeup this year, which really helped him. He threw the most innings of his career this last year. He's got a mid-90s fastball. He's got a slider that he's still working on. But it's a high spin slider, right? So all of this together, he gets a lot of swing and miss. And if he ends up being with the Pirates early in the season in the bullpen, I see him. I really genuinely believe he would only be there if he's going to basically jump in as your 7-8 inning guy. I think that's what he is meant to be. And I think if he's at the beginning of the season with the team, that's where he is going to be, is at the end of that bullpen to start immediately. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you got?
I agree. And I want to add to your stat line. He gave up 22 hits the entire season in 61 innings. That blows my mind. No home runs allowed. I've watched video on it.
And a high
I haven't
spin
seen him throw in
fastball.
person. Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. He's a high release guy, so his arm is up here, right? We saw another oddly high release guy dominate in the playoffs named Trey Savage for the Toronto Blue Jays. I see some similarities in the way they pitch. I'm not comparing the two and like they're apples to apples, but I see some similarities in their stuff and the way they like to pitch and the arm angle. And he definitely would bring a unique look out of the Pirates bullpen. You know, you see bullpens that try to get all types of angles. You know, you want guys to see different things and one after the other. You don't want clones coming out there to get a different look. So the numbers are incredible. Moved up 4 levels this year. I mean, that's almost unheard of.
Yeah.
And guy's just been dominant. I mean, I'm excited to see how his stuff plays in spring training and beyond. So I definitely think he has a role in the bullpen at some point this year.
As I say every time we bring up Brandon Bidouin, I strongly suggest you just go to your internet machine, however you use it, type in the name, which you'll probably spell wrong, but that's okay. And then watch video of him pitching. Just watch hitters, how they react to his pitches. They don't see it. They do not see the ball. He comes from way up top, like Presley said, and his fastball's high spin coming straight down on you. The slider looks the exact same and then just darts. It's got a ton of spin. He is going to be a guy that gets a lot of strikeouts, but I actually do like the Savage comparison and wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe work in a splitter as more of a swing and miss pitch if that's something that works out for him. Obviously, he doesn't really need to change anything right now. He's been so good, but you never know. Maybe you get a little more swing and miss with a splitter over a changeup. Let's move to another young pitcher. This one is Rob King's darling. Rob King's favorite pitcher in the minor leagues that he had tabs on at the beginning of this season. Why are people not talking about Antoine Kelly? Antoine Kelly, well, he hasn't thrown many innings until this year. This last year, 107.1 innings pitched. His previous high was 69. He is now on the 40-man roster for the Pirates, and he is so nasty. Just another guy, starting pitcher, who throws 100 miles an hour. The Pirates are just picking these guys up out of everywhere and throwing them in their minor league organization. And I think this guy, while he still has some growth to do, I don't think we're going to see him immediately. He's got a great fastball. He's got a really good changeup, which another right-hander with a really good changeup, power arm, power changeup. We're seeing that combo a lot more. And he's still working on the slider. But Presley, just another super powerful arm coming out of the Pirates minor leagues. What do you see from Antoine Kelly?
Yeah, he's just like a little stick of dynamite. He's like 5'10", not a big dude, throws upper 90s. The changeup plays, like you said, I think him moving from Greensboro then to Double-A, he still had the same success from an ERA standpoint, didn't strike out quite as many people at the same rate, which is just something that's going to come with his development. Once you see more and more hitters that can get or fend off that fastball, I shouldn't say get to it because it's an electric fastball, but can kind of fend that off. You got to find different ways to get outs through different sequences and stuff like that. So from a learning perspective, this coming year is going to be huge for him on how to use his secondary stuff. The changeup's really good. Slider is good. It's serviceable, but there's room for growth as well. But he's a guy that just like you said, just they're growing these power righties on trees apparently, and he's going to be added to the mix at some point. But had a blast watching him pitch in Altoona last year, and was really pumped to see what he had to offer, and he did not disappoint. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Let's move over to the position player side of things. Pirates starting to grow that position player side of their minor leagues prospect lists. And we will obviously, Jostinson Garcia, we got in the trade for Johan Oviedo from the Red Sox, is somebody that I'm really excited to watch play and see what his role is going to be. If he hits, he's going to play. I mean, it's that simple. I believe he's got that kind of quad A look right now where you don't know if he's going to start in the big leagues or in AAA. However,
Mhm.
if he hits, he's going to be on the team. I think it's really that simple for him. Okay, let's go to somebody a little bit different. Somebody I haven't talked about much, and I think you will have some really good perspectives on him because very similar player to yourself. Mitch Jebb is the number 19 ranked prospect for MLB Pipeline. He spent the entire year with Altoona this year. The year before, he spent the entire A with Greensboro and High. The year before, he spent the entire season in Low A. So this is what he does. He has moved up one season or one level every year, and this year in Altoona, the batting average not terrible, 265. You'll take that. The OPS only 667. He didn't hit a single home run. Okay. It's just not something you see very often in baseball nowadays. However, he is really good at just hitting, and he is very good at getting on base. He had a 350 on base percentage this year. In his minor league career over 3 seasons, he has 132 walks to only 162 strikeouts. So he puts the ball in play. Last year, he had more walks than strikeouts in AA, which I think is very impressive. I just kind of want to hear, Presley, your take on a guy like Mitch Jebb, who maybe is not what we see very often in professional baseball anymore, because it seems like we always like the freaks, the guys with crazy power and
Mhm.
speed, the Oneil Cruz types. This is more of a throwback to a classic, really good defensive infielder who can also put the bat on the ball but doesn't have much power. What do you think about Mitch Jebb?
I like him. He's definitely a throwback, but that's kind of something that we're seeing come back in the game now, with especially with the disengagement rules from a pitching perspective. It's stealing bases has become more of a thing. For a while there. It was dead for a good while, and Mitch
Yeah.
Shebb's a guy. He's going to steal bases for you. He's going to put the ball in play. Like he's not going to show much power. If he can get to where he can get a little bit more gap to gap power as he moves up, that would definitely be beneficial for him. But handles the bat really well. He will bunt. He'll do all the little stuff that's not cool, but everybody that plays baseball at any high level knows is very important, and they love guys like this. He's a grinder. If I have a comp for you, it's going to be a guy
Okay.
that we just got named Jake Mangum. Is very similar, although a switch hitter, very similar to Mitch Jebb in their style of play. They're going to swing a lot. They're going to hit the ball. They're going to roll the ball, so to speak. And he just is a guy that gets things done. Like if I was going to talk about Jake Mangum, I would say he's a guy that gets stuff done. He's going to be always doing something, and you're going to look at his stat line. You're going to say, "Oh, well, like it's pretty good," but this, right? He's missing this and missing this, but he's always in the mix, doing something to help your team win. That's Mitch Jebb, a guy that was middle infielder, moved to center field last year, so hasn't played much outfield and has looked really good doing it. A smooth transition. He'll go get him. He can run. So I think there's more in the tank at the plate as far as as you talked about earlier, power, meaning extra base hit power. I think there's more there once he kind of figures all that out and how to leverage counts and when to really go for it and when to back off. But yeah, just a guy that just does things, gets it done, and is very steady, and a guy that I'm sure we'll see in Indy this year and be following closely.
It's curious for a guy like Jebb. I always think of if you have a really good offense around somebody like Mitch Jebb, then he's literally the perfect person, right? Because you
Mhm.
need that guy who gets things done, who's always in the mix. That's what you need. But right now, the Pirates are looking for offense, and so I don't think Mitch is going to have necessarily a great path until he either really starts hitting with a little bit more gap to gap power, like you said, or the Pirates are able to build more offense around him. So, last one. We got one more here. One more guy we want to talk about, and that is Termarr Johnson, first round pick, number 4 overall. But, he's had some ups and downs in the minor leagues, but he ended last year very, very well. From August to September, he had 341 with an 868 OPS right after Konnor Griffin was called up to AA. Whether that
Yep.
has any impact on it, we've talked
Couple
about
of
that.
alphas in there, see what
But
happens.
yeah, exactly. But my question with Termarr Johnson, only 15 doubles and 9 home runs last year, and he played over 100 games. So we would want to see a little bit more power from him, obviously. But I truly believe that Tamar Johnson will get better as he goes up levels. I think he's got that kind of personality. I think he really thrives off competition, and he wants to be the best. And I think that maybe there's a little bit of like feeling held back after getting to Double A when he was only 19 years old, and now he's been stuck in Double A for 2 years. I think maybe there's a little bit of feeling of stagnation. So I think as soon as this guy goes to Triple A, we're going to see those numbers start to get better, in my personal opinion. Do you think, Press, I got something a little going there? Do you think I'm just a dummy? And do you think he'll start this season in Triple A or not?
Well, you're never a dummy, Steven. We know this, but
Thank you.
I agree with you because I feel like his approach is advanced at the plate for what he's looking for, and I feel like sometimes when I watch him hit, pitchers are kind of doing things that don't really make sense at like a lower level. If that makes any sense at all, what I'm talking about, like you can't really predict
Yeah,
things
no.
at the lower levels, and once you get older and you get higher up, you can kind of predict where guys are going to throw it. They're a little more accurate with their command, and you can really zone in on some areas. But I mean, anybody that's ever been to Altoona and watched a game knows that being a left-handed hitter at Altoona is not fun. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, to get one out by that roller coaster in right field. So Tamar, he popped a few, but one thing I want to say about him is that he's able to hit left-handed pitching, hit 314 off lefties. I think that's one of the key things as a lefty to be able to be an everyday player is to be able to hit off of left-handed pitching. But I think it comes back to approach with him and just trying to use left center a little bit more. I've seen him get on the ground to the pull side a lot whenever he's kind of out of whack. But yeah, really got dialed in last year, about when he hit probably about a year's worth of at bats in Double A. Let's not forget this guy's 21. He was just able to legally buy a beer midway through the year last year. So he's not, I mean, we're not talking about, it seems like he's been around forever, right? But he really hasn't.
Right. It does.
He only had, I'm not going to look in these notes. He only had 3 at-bats last year against a pitcher that was younger than him last year. That's a crazy stat to think about. So he's ahead of his time right now. And you know what? There's been some growing pains, and I'm sure that he wanted things to progress faster, but getting those guys around him at the end of the year, Connor Griffin, Esmerlin Valdez, those guys are really, they got something going in him, and a sense of urgency, I think, came over Tamar at that point, and that's when he really got locked in and really finished with a flurry, and they had that playoff push, and it was all about winning and being with those guys. And I think that's the group that they're kind of trying to cultivate to be the next group that's going to come up and affect Pittsburgh, and for him to be a part of that, I think has really elevated his game, because he was kind of alone there for a while. I mean, the offense, there wasn't many prospects on that team for the first maybe half of the year. So it feels good as a prospect to have some other guys come up with you and maybe push you forward. And I think that's exactly what he got at the end of the year.
I agree. I think that we're going to see him start the year in AAA. I think we're going to see him do really well. I think he's going to thrive off of better pitchers, like you said, that have more of a plan, because he's a smart hitter. He's not just going up and swinging. He's a guy who likes to kind of plan ahead and use scouting reports and all that stuff. And everything that comes into that side of the game just gets not only more usable because you have more information, but also more usable because the pitchers are actually kind of making sense, like that,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
part of it. So we'll see how it all works out. But hey, the Pirates minor league system has really gotten to a point now where you got a lot of offensive players and not many pitchers. Who would have expected it? Things are turning around. It's topsy-turvy town in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Okay, that's all we got today. I'm done saying weird things. Thank you so much for joining us here on Bucs Bounty. Alex Presley joins us today. That was so much fun. Oh, wait, you're over there. I'm not even pointing. You can't see my arm anyway. Producer Nick Belsky along with the ride with us as well. So much fun. Thank you for joining us. Please like, subscribe, follow, watch us on YouTube at SportsNet Pittsburgh or anywhere you get your podcasts. We thank you so much for joining us. Presley, say bye.
See you guys. Hopefully we get a win in the playoffs here coming up. Let's roll. Let's go.
That was way too many words. I said say bye. Anyway, thanks for joining us on Bucs Bounty. We'll see you next week.